everybody to the third installment of mathematical concepts. My name is Freddie and I will be doing completion of the square today in today's video. So in the first video we introduced the quadratic equation, and then in the second video we did the examples that you could be tricked with in quadratic equation, and then in this video is taking it a step further to completing the square. Now there are three ways for you to factorize your quadratic equation. For those of you who don't know what a quadratic equation is, it's an equation of the second degree in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c is equals to 0. And when it is equals to 0 like that, we say it is in standard form. Okay, now keep that in mind. So now there are three ways of factorizing your equation, and which will help you determine the roots of the quadratic equation. By that we mean the x values. Okay, now the first method is by straight factorizing. This method is the one where you do two brackets is equals to 0, and then you have x there, you have x there, and then you have your number here, your constant there, plus or minus, and then you have x minus plus 3 is equals to 0, or x minus 2 is equals to 0, and then x is equals to minus 3, or x is equals to positive 2. So that is what I mean there by the standard way of factorizing. And then the other way of factorizing is by using the quadratic equation. Using the quadratic equation, you first put your equation in standard form like that. When you say equation is in standard form, we mean that you have a 0 on the right hand side of the equal sign. Then you determine the value of a, which will be the whatever number that is here, the value of b, which is whatever number that will be a coefficient of x. The coefficient of x squared will be a, the coefficient of x will be b, and then your constant, which is c. And then when we have these three values, you then plug them into your quadratic formula. This is the quadratic equation because it has an equal sign there. It is the quadratic equation because it has an equal sign, and then you plug these values into the quadratic formula, which I have done in the previous video, I think in the first video. And what is the quadratic formula? Is this formula right here. X is equals to, I'll put it here, x is equals to minus b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. This one we did the brackets. Here we use the quadratic formula, and then that is the second way. That is the second way of finding the value of x or the roots, right? And then now in today's video we'll be doing the third way, which is completing the square. So today's video is all about that. Okay, now here are the steps that you will follow when you complete the square, but I'm going to first do it with you guys to show you how do you go about before we can come to this. Now, when do you use this method, completion of the square? Because we all know by now that when you have an equation, you can just straight out and go and factorize. When the equation is not factorizable, or it is a bit difficult, or it will take you longer in an exam, you then just go straight ahead and use the quadratic equation, which is faster and simpler because you just put the equation in standard form, and then when it is in standard form, then you have your value of a, your value of b, and your value of c. You plug it here, then you get the answer x. Now, when do you use completing of the square? You use completing of the square when they specifically ask you to. So here we use the method if specifically requested. Okay, so if the examiner wants you to use that method, that is when you use the method. And then the second time when you use this is if the question says determine without using a formula. By a formula they are referring to the quadratic formula. If they say determine the roots without, or the x values without using the formula, and you find that the expression on the left hand side cannot be factorized. If it can be factorized, you factorize it in the standard method. If it can be factorized, you use the formula. If it can be factorized and they say don't use the formula, you use the completing of the square method. All right. Okay. Now, the steps. How do you go about it? I think it will be a bit simpler for you guys if we do it there and then we come back here and we go back there. All right. So I want you to focus the side. Okay. So you're given your quadratic equation like that, and then the most important thing is if your quadratic equation is given and it's not in standard form, please put it in standard form. That's the very most first thing. Please put it in standard form, because a lot of this method that I'm showing you apply when the equation is in standard form. Put it in standard form. And standard form, we mean that the right hand side of the equation is 0. Okay. Now, once your equation is in standard form, because here you need it in standard form, here you need it in standard form. Here is a bit different. Once it's in, but it has to first be in standard form. Once it's in standard form, then you take the constant, because these are variables. X is a variable, and then the number before x, we call it a coefficient of the variable. Now 2 is just a constant. So not to say minus 3 and 2 are not constant. They are constant, but they are coefficients. So they with x squared, this is a term. With 2x, this is a term. All right. Now you take this positive 2 to the right hand side of the equation, which is what you did here. So this 2 is now the side. As a rule of thumb, when it is positive here and it comes across the equal sign, it becomes negative. If it was negative, it will be positive. Okay. Now, the next step, you're going to divide everything by the coefficient of x squared. The coefficient of x squared, not the coefficient of x, the coefficient of x squared. You have x here, you have x squared here. So you have x, you have x, you have x squared here. So the coefficient of x squared is minus 3. So hence you're going to divide every term by minus 3, which you did here, and you did here. Okay, that is your third step. Then the next step is you are going to take half of the coefficient of x. You worked with x squared in the previous step. You divided by the coefficient of x squared. You divided everything by the coefficient of x squared, right? Now you are working with the coefficient of x, not x squared. You are working with the coefficient of x. You are going to take half of the coefficient of x. If the coefficient of x is 2, you're going to take half of 2, which is 2 over 2. Half of 2 is 1. If the coefficient of x is 10, half of 10 is 5. You're going to take 5, right? In this case, the coefficient of x is minus 2 over 3. minus 2 over 3. It's a fraction. Now, don't let it trick you, right? So, if you have any number and you want half of it, you multiply it by half. Okay, so minus 2 times 1 is going to give you minus 2. 3 times 2 is going to give you 6. So you have minus 2 over 6. Now, 2 over 6 is going to give you negative 1 over 3. Okay, so keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. So you're going to take half of the coefficient of x and you're going to square it. Alright? Half of the coefficient of x and you're going to square it. So the coefficient of x is negative 2 over 3. And half of it, you multiply by half, you get minus 2 over 6, which is minus 1 over 3. And you're going to square it. Right? Now, you're going to add that to the left-hand side of the equation as well as the right-hand side of the equation, so to balance it. What you do on the left, you do on the right to balance the equation and maintain the equal sign, which is the equilibrium. So this is what happened here. So we added half, the square of half of the coefficient of x, which is minus 1 over 3. So you see here, we've added it, and we've also added it on the right hand side of the equation. This is negative 1 over 3. Okay, all right, so negative 1 over 3 squared. Negative 1 over 3 squared. We've added it this side, we've added it that side. Don't let this confuse you. Okay, that is the fourth step. Now the next step is you're going to factorize this side of the equation, which is now a perfect square, because this is half of that and it's squared. So which is why you can say the half of this, the factors of x squared is going to be x, the factors of this is going to be 1 over 3, and then because this is half of that, 2 of them are going to give you that. Okay, and because you have negative here, you're going to have a negative here, so that you can have a negative term there, and then you have a positive there, so this times negative is going to give you a positive. Whatever comes out of a square root, it comes out as positive, so don't worry much about that negative, it's going to disappear. Okay, so now you factorize this side, it becomes x minus 1 over 3 squared. And then on the right hand side, you're gonna add this. These are all constant. You're gonna add that. And I wanna show you how it came about. I just wanna show you how it came about. This. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove this. Okay. So there you have 2 over 3 plus minus 1 over 3 squared. Okay, now you're gonna remain with 2 over 3 here, plus minus 1 squared is 1, and then 3 squared is 9. Okay, this is loss of exponents. We'll get to it. Okay, loss of exponents. And then when you get to this side, this stage, you have you're gonna use what we call the lowest common denominator, which is 9, because 3 goes into 9 and 9 goes to 9. So now you're gonna have your LCD as 9. 3 goes into 9 3 times. 3 times 2 is going to be 6. Then you have that plus. 9 goes into 9 once. 1 times 1, 1. Then you end up with 7 over 9, like that. 7 over 9, like that. So this will be equals to 7 over 9. Okay, this will be equals to 7 over 9. And then when you get to this stage, then you apply the square root to remove that square. Okay, so you're gonna, and when you apply the square root, remember you're gonna take the positive and the negative. Okay, you're gonna take the positive and the negative. So this is what's gonna happen, because once you apply the square root, it can be positive or it can be negative. So you're going to take this as plus minus the square root of x minus 1 over 3 squared is equals to the square root of 7 over 9. Sorry, plus minus comes there. Okay, plus minus comes there. Now the square root is going to cancel the squared, and you're going to remain with x minus 1 over 3 is equals to plus minus the square root of 7 over 9. And with the calculator you can resolve that, okay? And then you will have plus minus the square root of 7 over 9. Okay, and then you will take this 1 over 3 to the other side, and then you'll have x is equals to plus minus the square root of 7 over 9 plus 1 over 3. And then you can punch this to your calculator and it will give you the final answer. All right, so okay, so now let's go to the steps. So it should make a bit of sense at this stage. So the first thing is make sure that your equation is in standard form. All right, and then once it is that, write all terms containing the x on the left hand side and the constant term on the right hand side, which is what we did here. All terms that have x on the left hand side and the constant on the right hand side. Now that is taking your equation out of standard form. It's no longer in standard form. Then the next step is divide by the coefficient of x squared, not x. Divide all terms, divide all terms by the coefficient of x squared. The coefficient of x squared is -3. So we did there, we took the constant to the right hand side, it became a negative, and then we divided by a coefficient of x squared, which is -3. So we did there -3, -3, and then we ended up with x. This cancels that. We ended up with x squared, and then minus 2 over 3x is equals to 2 over 3. Negative divided by negative is positive. Okay, right, we're gonna get to laws of exponents and laws of sets and logarithms at a later stage, but then this is sort of taking us there, but let's not deviate. Okay, for now let's not deviate, let's remain focused. Okay, now we work with the coefficient of x squared, which we divided all terms with. Now we are going to work with the coefficient of x, not x squared now, x, right? So we're going to add half of the coefficient of x, the squared, right? We're going to take, if the coefficient of x is 3, or let me give you an example of, let me say, if the coefficient of x is 8, we are going to take half of 8, which is going to be 4, right? And then we're going to take 4 squared, okay? Half of 8, and then we square that 4, okay? 4 squared, 4 times 4, 16, I'm not sure. You will do it on your calculator. What is 4 squared? Yes, so you're going to take half of 8, which is 4, and then you're going to take the squared, 4 squared, and then you're going to add it on the left and on the right. So you're going to take half of the coefficient of x, and then you're going to square it, and you add it to both sides, which is the left hand side and the right hand side. So now let's see if we did that. So we took half of the coefficient of x. The coefficient of x is minus 2 over 3, right? We took minus 2 over 3. I think we did this. We took minus 2 over 3, right? We took half of it, meaning we multiplied by half, and then minus 2 times 1 gives you minus 2. 3 times 2 give you 6. 2 into 2 goes once, 2 into 6 goes 3 times, and then don't forget that negative sign. So this is half of the coefficient of x, and then if we square it, it's gonna look like that, and then we add this to the left hand side as well as the right hand side. So we took negative 1 over 3, we added it to the left hand side of the equal sign as well as the right hand side of the equal sign, which is this guy over here and this guy over here. Okay, right. Now factorize the left hand side, which is now a perfect square, and add the terms on the right hand side. Okay, yes, factorize the left hand side, which is now a perfect square, and add the terms on the right hand side. Yes, it ends there. This sentence ends there, full stop there. Okay, so you factorize the term on the left hand side, and then you add the terms on the right hand side. Okay, so if you can look at it again, we now because this is half of this and squared. Now the factors of x squared is x and x, and then the factors of this of 1 over 3 squared is 1 over 3 and then that negative is because this is going to end up looking like this. Let me just expand it a little bit. This term over here is going to end up looking like this. It's going to end up looking like this. So x 1 over 3 negative. So because it's 2, then we write 1 and say squared. It's 1 times itself, so squared. So this is why it came up to be like this. So if you say minus 1 over 3x and minus 1 over 3x is going to give you minus 2 over 3x, and we can show that because this times that is going to give you x squared. This times that is going to give you minus 1 over 3x. This times that is going to give you another minus 1 over 3x. This times that, negative times negative, is going to give you a positive 1 over 3 times 1 over 3. 1 times 1 is going to give you 1. 3 times 3 is going to give you 9. Okay, right, which this 9 is 3 squared, 1 squared. So it's the same as 1 over 3, 1 over 9 is the same as 1 over 3 squared, because 1 squared is 1, 3 squared is 9. Hope you can see that. And then now, when you add these guys over here, minus 1 over 3, minus 1 over 3, minus 1 over 3, minus 1 over 3, your lowest common denominator is 3. 3 into 3 goes once. 1 times minus 1 is minus 1. And then you have that sign which is minus there. And then 3 into 3 goes once. 1 times 1 is 1. So you have minus 1, which is equals to minus 2 over 3, which is this guy over here. Okay, so I hope that makes sense, guys. I hope that makes sense. Alright, I'm gonna wrap this and then take this and put it here so that everybody can see, and then just redo it once, because I know completing the square can be a bit tricky. It needs you to get acclimatized to it. So once you arrive here, you add this using your calculator, and I've shown how we got to 7 over 9. And then once we get to it, and then you put a square root to remove the squared, because you're not looking for the squared, you're looking for x. And then on this, don't forget to put plus minus. You take both sides. So, and then you're gonna end up with x minus 1 over 3 is equals to plus minus the square root of 7 over 9, right? And then you're going to take this negative x to that side. Then you're going to end up with x is equals to plus minus the square root of 7 over 9 plus 1 over 3. Now you can take x is equals to plus all that, and then you can you can say again x is equals to minus that plus that. So you have to take both plus and minus. Okay, all right. I hope it makes sense. So this is what they mean here. Take the square root on both sides. Remember to take the plus minus on the right hand side, on this side. Okay, hence determine x by taking the constant on the left hand side, which is 1/3, to the right hand side. This guy over here to the right hand side, what I had written below there. Okay, and use your calculator to find the answer. So I'm just gonna quickly remove this because I wanna write that number in an enlarged manner, and I want us to do that sum for the last time using writing enlarged. All right, so that you can be able to see. So you have minus 3x squared plus 2x plus 2 is equals to 0. And the first step, you're gonna take this to the right side, okay, which you're gonna remain with minus 3x squared plus 2x is equals to -2, right? You took the constant to the right hand side, and then the next step, you're gonna divide by the coefficient of x squared, which is -3. Then you're gonna divide by -3, okay, divide by -3. You divide every term by -3, every single term, right? You're gonna then end up with -3 over -3. You're gonna left with x squared plus, so because of this negative, positive divided by negative, you're gonna have negative. So you're gonna have -2 over 3x is equals to negative divided by negative positive. So you're gonna have 2 over 3 over that side. Okay, now you're gonna take half of the coefficient because you work with the coefficient of x squared. Now you're working with x. You're gonna take half of x, the coefficient of x squared. So my coefficient of x is -2. Is -2 over 3. Now you're gonna multiply it by half, which is gonna give you half of that. Multiply by half. So -2 times 1 is gonna give you -2. 3 times 2 is gonna give you 6. Now 2 into 2 goes once. 2 into 3 goes 3 times. So you're gonna have -1 over 3 there as half of the coefficient of x. So half of -2 by 3 is -1 over 3. Okay, now you're gonna square that. You're gonna take the square and you're gonna add it to both sides of the equation. So you're gonna have x squared minus 2 over 3x plus -1 over 3 squared is equals to 2 over 3 plus -1 over 3 squared, like that. Now when you get to this stage, you're gonna factorize this side, which is now a perfect square, because remember this is half of this squared, and then you will have x minus 1 over 3 into x minus 1 over 3 is equals to that side. For this, you can just plug a calculator and add it. Okay, you can just plug a calculator and add it. This is the same thing twice, is end up as x minus 1 over 3 squared. Okay, is equals to, let's quickly add to the side. Here you have 1 squared is 1, 3 squared is 9, so you're gonna have 2 over 3 plus -1 over 9. This is the same as negative, because positive times negative is negative, yes. So you're gonna have 1 over 9. Okay, so you're gonna take your lowest denominator, lowest common denominator, which is 9. 3 into 9 goes 3 times. So 3 times 2 is gonna give you 6. Then you say minus 1. 9 into 9 goes once. 1 times 1 is 1. So this is gonna give you 7 over 9. Okay, the whole thing is gonna be reduced to 7 over 9, right? So you're gonna have the side as 7 over 9. So which is why you're gonna have the side 7 over 9. Now you're going to plug in your square root to remove the square. And then you're going to do the same. But this side, you're going to put plus minus, okay? And then you will remain with x minus 1 over 3 is equals to plus minus the square root of 7 over 9. Okay, 7 over 9. Alright, like that. And then at this stage, you're going to take this constant to the other side. So you will be remain with x is equals to plus minus the square root of 7 over 9 plus, because it's negative, it's going to be plus on this side, 1 over 3. You can plug this into a calculator, or we can do it manually, because you will have the square root of 7 over the square root of 9, which is square root of 7 over 3. Okay, because 9 is 3 squared. Alright, so yes, I hope that this explained completing of the square for you. I hope that this makes completing of the square easy for you, and I hope that you have a different perspective of completion of the square mathematics from this point onwards. And this marks the end of our video today, and I want to thank you for watching. And if you like what we do, and if you like the way I explain things, I would like you to please subscribe and like the video, and then I will see you in the next video, where I'm probably gonna do few examples of completing the square, because this is how I do my things. I introduce a section and how to unravel it and analyze it, like I did with today's video, and then the subsequent video will be where I do examples of the tricks you can be tricked with, the problems you can be tricked with, and then how to go about them. So the next video will probably be about the tricks that or the examples or the exercises that you can come across in terms of completion of the square. And I hope this helps you in your exams. Yes, and thank you guys for watching.